Have you ever felt, well, stuck? Kind of like you're living a life that doesn't quite feel like it's yours? We're about to dive into this really powerful journey of transformation, one that's pieced together from the real-life stories of people who went from feeling totally trapped to feeling truly free. And it all seems to start with this one common feeling.
For years, I was a ghost in my own life. Wow, that one just hits, doesn't it? It perfectly captures where this whole journey begins. It's that strange feeling of being physically present, but not really there. You're just watching your own life go by from the sidelines. It's this deep disconnection that, a lot of people feel, but almost no one talks about.
So, feeling like a ghost, it naturally leads to a really big question. This isn't just about surviving or getting through the day. We're talking about a fundamental shift, a kind of resurrection of the self. So, what does it actually take? What does it take to go from being that ghost in your own life to being fully, vibrantly alive? Let's start by looking at the place people are trying so hard to escape from.
Right, so to really get that journey out, we have to first understand what it's like to be in. Let's call this state life in the grave. It's this place defined by old habits and old ways of thinking that just don't work anymore. The first word that comes up over and over again in these stories is this one, trapped. It's the sense of being completely boxed in, and not just by your job or your city, but by the weight of your own past, by the loops playing over and over in your own mind. And when you feel trapped, what happens? You start repeating things. It's like Groundhog Day. You find yourself in the exact same patterns, making the same mistakes, and living what feels like the same day, every single day. It feels impossible to break the cycle. So how do you cope with being trapped in a never-ending loop? Well, the brain has a defense mechanism for that. Numbness. You start to disconnect from your own feelings, your own desires, almost as a survival tactic. You just stop feeling. So you've got trapped, repeating, and numb. That's the core of it. Okay, so what does this actually look like in day-to-day life? Well, it shows up as living on autopilot, just going through the motions. It's being defined by past mistakes, letting them tattoo who you think you are today. It's being terrified of change, because even a familiar pain can feel safer than the unknown. And really, at the heart of it all is a life where you're just reacting to things instead of making conscious choices. But then, something happens. In every one of these stories, there's a moment we can call the turning point. This is where the foundation of that old life, that grave, finally starts to crack. So what exactly is this turning point? Look, it's not some magical lightning bolt from the sky. It's a moment of really profound and often painful clarity. It's that exact instant where you realize the pain of staying where you are, stuck in that numb, repeating cycle, has finally become worse, more terrifying than the fear of stepping into something new. Someone put it perfectly. I realized the grave wasn't a prison. It was a choice I kept making every day. That's it. That's the entire shift right there. It's the moment you stop seeing yourself as a victim of your circumstances and start to see your own hand in the pattern. That jump from blame to responsibility, that's the key that unlocks the door. Okay, but having a big realization is one thing, doing something about it is a whole other ballgame. So how does that insight actually turn into action? That brings us to the climb out of the grave and towards something that feels like freedom. When you look at all these stories, the path out seems to boil down to 3 essential steps. First, radical honesty. That's just having the guts to look at your life, your choices, and see them for what they are. No excuses, no blame. Second, seeking help. You have to break the isolation because this is not something you can do alone. And finally, the engine of all change, taking new action. It's all about intentionally choosing to do things differently, over and over, no matter how small those new actions feel at first. And these new actions, they're all fueled by this massive shift in mindset. It's like flipping a switch. You go from just reacting to whatever life throws at you to actually creating your life. Your internal question changes from a victim's, why me, to an empowered, okay, what now? And maybe the biggest one of all, you stop running from discomfort and you start leaning into it, seeing it as the price of admission for growth. So, after all that work, where does it all lead? What does it actually feel like on the other side? This brings us to the experience of the new self and what these stories describe as real, true freedom. Now, it's really important we get this right. When we talk about power and freedom, it doesn't mean your life is suddenly perfect and free of problems. Not at all. True power is about having the inner capacity to choose how you respond to whatever happens. And freedom? Freedom is the ability to live authentically, from that place of inner strength, no matter what's going on around you.
One person described it like coming home. They said, I stopped trying to be someone else and finally met myself. It's about taking off all the masks, dropping all the roles you thought you had to play, and finally getting to know the person who is underneath it all along.
Someone else added this incredible insight. The freedom isn't being fearless. It's acting despite the fear. This is so key. The fear doesn't just vanish. What changes is your relationship to it. It doesn't paralyze you anymore. Instead, it kind of becomes a compass, pointing you in the exact direction you need to go to grow.
And then there's this powerful reframing of the past. My past is a story I learned from, not a place I live in. All of a sudden, the past isn't a life sentence. It's not this heavy anchor you have to drag around. It becomes a textbook, a source of wisdom, a story you can learn from without being forced to live in it. That right there is the heart of this new freedom.
So, why does any of this matter to you? Because even though the details of every story are different, the journey itself, it's universal. This isn't just about other people's stories. This is about the potential that exists in your own.
Which brings us to the final and really the most important question of all. As you were listening to this, what came to your mind? What's that one pattern, that one belief, that one old way of being that might be keeping you in a grave of your own making? What's the choice you keep making every day? And I'll leave you with this last thought. This resurrection, this act of climbing out of the grave, it isn't the finish line. It's the starting line. It's the first real step into a life that is consciously, truly, and authentically yours. It's the beginning of everything.